Welcome to Ms. Taylor's class notes. Today we're going to talk about solving inequalities. This first section right here is just a review of the previous lesson, so go look at those notes and real quickly fill those in, and if you need to, check it with the completed class notes. All right, so first and foremost, let's talk about our inequality symbols. So this symbol right here with our little arrow pointing to the left is our less than symbol. If it's got a line underneath it, that tells us that it's going to be less than or equal to. If our little arrow guy is pointing to the right, that tells us it's going to be greater than. Oh, let's spell things right. And then again, if it's got that little line underneath it, it's going to be greater than or equal to. And then one little thing to remember is when we graph our inequalities on a number line, it might be a while since you've done it. If our sign is less than or greater than, which means they don't have the line, we're going to use an open circle. If it is less than or equal to with a line or greater than or equal to, we're going to use that filled in circle right there. So let's look at this first problem right here. So we have y is less than, that's that symbol right there. And I know that less than means it's going to be an open circle. So I need to go find -2, and I'm going to draw an open circle on -2. And then here's the really cool things about inequalities. Because it's a less than symbol, I need my arrow to go that way. So I'm going to take my line, and I'm going to take it and draw it in the direction that the arrow is pointing. So any value that works for y is less than -2 is going to be anything on that green line or further. So in our next problem, we've got x is greater than or equal to. That's not supposed to be there, which tells us it's going to be a filled in circle. So I'm going to go find 5 on my number line, and I'm going to fill in the circle on 5. And then my arrow is pointing to the right, so my line is going to go to the right. And I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker and a little bit easier to see. So this next one is a little bit different. So it tells us that A is in between. Okay, so that's what that little symbol tells me. So the first one is less than or equal to, which is going to be a filled in circle. The next one is going to be an open circle. So I'm going to take -3, and at -3, I'm going to put a filled in circle. At 6, I'm going to put an open circle. And I know that A is between it, so all I'm going to do is connect my 2 circles right there. So that's just a little quick reminder of things that you should have learned in previous years, but I just want to make sure that we go over it. So now we're going to solve 1- and 2-step equations with inequalities. So we still have to add or subtract our constant sign. So we're going to do all of those, or all of our constant. And remember, our constant is the number without a letter all by itself, and the sign in front of it goes with it. Then we are going to multiply or divide by our coefficient, which is the number next to the letter. Now, we have one different step when we have inequalities. If I multiply or divide by a negative, I have to switch the inequality. If I multiply or divide by a negative, I have to switch the inequality. You're going to see 2 examples like that so that we make sure we know what we're doing. So I need to find my coefficient. My coefficient is the number all by itself. And if there's not a sign in front of it, I'm going to change it to, or I'm going to add the positive that's invisible there. So I need to flip the sign. What I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. My 9's cancel. I bring my 5x down, less than or equal to, and then 19 minus 9 is 10. 5 is my coefficient. A number next to a letter means multiply, so the opposite of multiply is divide. So x is going to be greater than or equal to 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I need a filled in circle, and I'm going to put it at 2. And then we know our sign is pointing that way, so that's the direction that my line needs to go. because it's going to be greater than or bigger than 2. All right, so here we need to find our constant. Our constant's the number all by itself that's nowhere near the variable. We're going to do the opposite. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So I'm left with a negative x divided by 3 is greater than, and then a negative 4 plus 2 is going to leave me with a negative 2. Oh, sorry, that negative does not need to be with the x. That negative needs to be with the 3. It really doesn't matter. They are all the same thing, but that's the easiest way to do it. So that little line in the problem tells me that that it's dividing. So the opposite of dividing is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3. And we said if we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip the sign. So instead of greater than, it's going to be less than. So x is less than, and then a negative 2 times a negative 3 is a positive 6. So that tells me that's going to be an open circle at 6. We changed our sign so that it looks like that. So then we need to draw our line going the same direction. So our arrow should look the same as our inequality. All right, we need to find our constant. Our constant is our number without a variable. We're going to flip the sign, do the opposite. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So those cancel out. So a negative 14 plus 10 is going to be negative 4, less than or equal to negative 2n. I'm just going to bring that right down. My coefficient is the number next to or in front of the variable, so it's negative 2. A number next to a letter tells me that they are multiplying, so the opposite tells me to divide. Remember, when we divide or multiply by a negative, we have to flip the sign. So the 2's cancel. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is going to get me a positive 2n. Now, one small little quirk about inequalities is I always need the variable on the other side. So when I do that, when I put the n on the other side, what I need to do is I need to flip the inequality again. And then I need to write down my 2. So because it's equal to, I need that filled in circle. So I'm going to go find 2. I'm going to go do my filled in circle. The arrow is pointing that way. And so that's where my line is going to be. And that is solving equations and graphing inequalities on number lines.